human element story starts in 1952, when Will Schutz was recalled into the U.S. Navy. He was a research psychologist, and he was given the task of figuring out how teams of men could work most productively together. His research focused on groups who worked on ships, and their job was to analyze information and make decisions and issue orders under pressure. The Navy put together a number of these teams, some of which performed very well and others didn't. What he found was that there were two things necessary for groups to be maximally productive. First, everybody had to have technical competence. And second, people had to work well together, something he called compatibility, and he defined that through his research. He published his findings in 1958, along with the theory that he had created to measure this phenomenon called FIRO. His main finding was something called the CP effect, which simply said that the more compatible a group was, the better they worked together, the more productive they were. That was a really helpful finding, because before the research, the Navy put together teams and 50% of them were productive. But after using this method, 75% of them were productive. He spent the next 20 years researching his theory and continuing to work on it. And what he found was it was pretty good. It measured behavior accurately about 75% of the time, which is a high number for a psychometric instrument. But he wasn't satisfied. It bothered him. What was the other 25%? And why is it that some people who seemed to be compatible still didn't work very well together? So this led him to explore. And he explored the functioning of feelings, the functioning of the mind, the body, the interaction among all of these things to figure out, well, how do people fully achieve their potential? How do they really solve problems and work better together? And the thing that he took from all of this exploration was the central idea that actually transformation happens from the inside out. It's not something that is imposed upon us. And so he set about creating a program or an approach that was integrated and holistic that would help people solve problems and achieve their potential. And what he did is he took all of his learning and he distilled it to the three essential principles that he had discovered and used that. The first was truth, the idea that each of us can solve problems by speaking our own personal truth. The second was the notion of choice. And choice is the idea that says each of us is capable of creating our own change. And the third is awareness, that self-awareness, understanding my own motivations and feelings, is key to making change happen and to sustain it. Added to all of this were the parts of the experiential methods that he had been studying that he incorporated into the methodology. Methods for self-perception, imagery or visualization, which helps us uncover our unconscious motivations, feedback, which helps people understand themselves better and solve problems with others, and structured experiences, which are physical activities that help people become more aware of their own behavior and motivations, especially when it doesn't match the way they think of themselves. At the same time, he revisited his earlier scientific work because he wanted to include it in the methodology. And he discovered, to his delight, that FIRO-B, the original research tool, was now widely used in training. But at the same time, he was uneasy because he had never intended it for training, and for that reason had never written an interpretive guide to it, and was not happy about the way that it was used in training or the way that it was interpreted. So he updated the instrument and the theory on which it was based, FIRO theory, and created Element B, which was specifically used for training and the successor to FIRO-B. In addition, based on the revised theory, he created a series of FIRO-based instruments, including Element F for feelings and Element S for self-concept. All of these instruments and the revised theory were incorporated into the approach. And the result was the human element, an integrated solution to the human issues in organizations. In other words, a way to help us work better together. The goals of the human element are to solve organizational problems and to maximize the potential of individuals, teams, and organizations. And since then, the human element has been used all over the world in 20 countries, 15 languages, organizations both small and large, public, private, in nonprofits, in government, and in education.
I was interested very much in how to increase productivity in organizations. And as I looked around, I found that there are a number of factors that went into this. For example, the technological. Some places would put in a computer system and try to improve their productivity that way. But then in the early days, I remember being called in as a consultant in one such company. And what happened was very instructive. They put in this computer operation, and it was there for a year, and it worked wonderfully. But at the end of the year, they tossed it out. And they took it out because the people wouldn't accept it. And then I looked into the economic factors, and the same thing would happen there. People would have methods of cost cutting, but they wouldn't work unless the people liked them. And so what I concluded was any method that you use to increase productivity has to involve the people. And in addition to all of that, there are many factors that are only people. For example, the way they build teams, the way they work together, the way they make decisions, and just the way people are empowered and motivated to work hard. So what I decided was if I really was interested in increasing productivity, I had to work with the people part. So the human element refers to that. It really refers to how to increase productivity in an organization, because that's what every organization is there for, by using what we know about the human element, empowering individuals and getting teams to work more effectively together.